I could use help here.
Anybody got the answer to that one?
Temperature?
Temperature.
No.
Colder temperatures make turbojet engines more efficient.
Yeah, weather.
Hey,
That was totally
who's
one.
next?
Well, he only gets one question.
Sweet.
Oh, you want another one?
No.
Yeah, he does.
He
He
does.
does.
I'd love another one.
You're in a safe space.
Thank you.
Factor
Bank
must
angle increases, load factor must,
increase.
and
Thrust must increase.
increase.
That was
Okay.
simple.
So why?
Because your lift vector kind of goes to the side, you need more lift to stay aloft.
Okay, so that's why the load factor and thrust increases because
You lose lift.
what happens when you have to increase the lift? What increases?
Oh, drag, yeah.
Induced drag.
Right.
Okay. So more lift required, creates more induced drag, requiring more thrust to counteract the drag.
Remember, dragging thrust are
Two?
Two. Okay, who's next?
Rasky.
Lowering flaps causes lift to increase and drag to increase.
Drag to what?
Increase.
Okay. So, from up to takeoff, what?
Well, if your flaps up and then you go down to take off, you're decreasing. Well, you're increasing lift and drag.
But compared to each one,
compared to, say, landing.
lift will
Landing
be,
Compared to what?
compared to the drag increase, lift would be
Greater.
greater. Okay, so we got a bigger lift increase and a small drag increase, okay? And then for takeoff to landing,
So it's less. So decrease.
so drag compared to lift,
A smaller increase.
which one's smaller?
From takeoff to landing, you have more drag.
More drag, okay.
Yeah, you add a little bit
Large
more lift.
increase in drag with a small increase in lift.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, next. Oh, how does slats affect airflow over the wings?
They redirect the flow so that you have more of the turbulent airflow over the wings.
Okay, so suppresses the boundary layer separation,
Good job.
which delays the stall. Okay. More of the high energy air from the bottom of the wing going over the top of the wing. Okay, who's next?
Kent, did you go?
Yeah, I did. You fix
You can go again.
Let's do it. Recession, P factor, slipstream, and
The most obvious
The only one I remembered was the one.
Torque.
Torque.
I don't know, yeah.
Substitution roll, P factor, torque, and gyroscopic precession. You will actually see this question again at the tabletop at one of the sims you go to. You see this stuff again later. Who's next?
Pat, you're next.
I know.
Okay.
Boom, Pat, he just did it with his mouth.
Yeah, I didn't know how
Yeah,
to
let's do it.
answer those questions.
So, how do we correct for slipstream swirl?
With right rudder.
With right rudder. Because it pulls the nose to the left.
It's appropriately all for P factor.
Okay.
Everyone is opposite.
P factor can go either way, right? Depending on whether we've got a high angle attack, low angle attack. So it might go, if we pull it up, creating a high angle attack, it normally pulls the aircraft to the left. If we're putting the nose down, it normally takes it to the right. So it's opposite the yaw, whatever.
With the swastika though.
This is not,
Oh, okay.
that's gyroscopic
That's not-
precession.
Oh, okay, that's,
I'm using the right terms, okay?
Procession's the only one that goes in like any direction.
Okay, who's next?
You go, Grant.
You get a permanent bending?
Nope.
Permanent.
Nope. You're actually answering the next question. We reach limit load factor. Say again? So, nothing. That's the design limit, right?
Oh.
So what happens if we exceed limit load factor? We bend the airplane. What happens if we exceed the ultimate load factor? We break the airplane. Okay, who's next?
Rooster, have you gone?
I have now. Clean symmetric is negative 3.5 to 7. Clean asymmetric is negative 1 to 4.7. Gear flaps symmetric is 0 to 2.5, and gear flaps asymmetric is 0 to 2.
Very good.
Hope everybody knows these
That's
right
awesome.
about this
Boys.
time.
Next?
With Mr. Johnson in the back there.
You big? Okay. Full or abrupt control inputs in one axis above what can cause structural damage?
Above the maneuvering speed.
Maneuvering speed, and that is what in the T6?
227.
227 knots. Next? Pick a
I'm
victim.
gonna pick. I don't hate any of you, that's.
Maneuvering is also.
No, it's different.
Yeah.
Maneuvering is first.
Oh, it is? Oh, I guess they were two different things.
You can pull it.
Already got
So who'd you pick?
But isn't that multiple, isn't that reflecting?
Okay.
That would just be asymmetric.
Max operating speed for the T6
316 knots,
and max.
0.67 Mach.
I'll give another one.
Next?
Give him another. Want me to pick a person? Anybody that hasn't gone? Sarah.
Since you get to sit in the corner.
Look out. 15 to 16.
Okay, 15 to 16 units, 5 to 10 knots above stall. What causes a stall? Going past CL max. Okay. Hopefully, nobody will ever miss that question. Okay?
Units of measurement.
There are test versions with that question on it. Okay?
I hope it's ours.
Yeah.
That's a free point.
So what's the least effective flight control in a stall or spin? Least effective. Ailerons. So, last effective? Right. All right, good job. Who's next?
Brand, have you gone?
Last one you lose, yeah.
Grant's
Pick a victim. Oh, you're gonna go.
I can go.
Right there? Okay. So, higher weight does what to stall speed?
Increases,
Increases. Power on.
decreases,
Same again?
decreases,
Decreases? Yep, okay. Higher load factor?
increases,
Okay. Steeper bank?
increases,
Steeper pitch?
it decreases,
Decreases. Lowering flaps?
decreases,
And higher altitude?
increases.
Let's see how we did.
Much skill.
No change.
Oh.
The indicated stall speed does not change with altitude. The true airspeed stall speed goes up with altitude.
What's your pitch?
How does steeper pitch decrease your stall speed?
Because you're getting propeller factor that is providing thrust,
Oh,
is decreasing the amount of lift the aircraft needs, the wing needs to produce, because you're getting part of the lift through thrust.
Same way.
Like vertical, we said like vertical, how much, what's the stall speed vertical? 0?
Because it's all thrust.
It's all thrust.
Remember that table that had straight level flight being?
Okay, who's next?
Oh.
But I hear increase.
Raise your hand if you haven't gone.
Start over with me.
Okay.
Okay. What is the stall region? It is the region on the graph to the right of the max coefficient of lift.
Okay, the point where any increase in AOA decreases the coefficient of lift. That's the way they term it in the manual, okay? But you're right.
Decrease. During a power off, okay, so the prop is not as, see, the prop's normally going like this in a power on, and I wanna roll to the left, so I'm gonna say to the right.
Correct. Left for the power on.
Oh god, I'm trying to remember, let's see, which stall gives a pilot more warning, power on, or power off? See, if I'm power on, I've got power on, I'm guessing.
Power off.
What's the reason? Stall speed is lower.
Stall speed is lower, therefore there is a larger gap between the stall wording and the actual stall.
Didn't you say power on? Or did you say power off?
I said on.
Power on is.
Oh,
where-
thanks, Rob. Thanks. Thanks for listening, because I already forgot what I said.
I think that was incorrect. I thought it was power off.
No,
based on
it's
the-
power on, because there's a bigger gap between the first indication of stall and the actual stall. But the stall speed is lower.
Didn't we just, yeah, on the very last slide, didn't we just say that having power, power on decreases stall speed, so that makes sense. There'd be a-
Decreases
yeah,
the
there'd be a
stall
larger
speed,
gap.
so there's a larger gap between the first indication and the actual stall. Okay, next.
Matt. Okay. Next question. Right? Or are we, am I still on?
Positive spin is, when one, what? Yeah, it's not on y'all, but it's when the lift on the left wing is one.
Go with the simple answer.
Okay, now we'll probably get into a little bit deeper. So what kind of stall occurs when yaw is introduced at the stall?
Asymmetric?
Asymmetric, correct. Okay. And an asymmetric stall, wings are both stalled but produce different amounts of
Lift?
and
Drag.
drag. Okay, next.
It's gotta be lift or drag.
Matt?
You have, I
Come
know
on, no fair looking it up.
steady spin's the last one. When one starts with an I, let's see what it is.
That's how I would approach it.
Incipient, there it is. So incipient is first, or no, and it's, gyro, post-stall, gyro, incipient, and then steady.
Okay, not the exact terms, but yeah.
Close enough.
Incipient spin and stabilize.
You'd be able to pick it up.
You can pick out the answers on a multiple choice.
That's right.
What's the difference between steady state and stabilized spin?
That's
They're the same, they're the same.
Okay. So, post-stall generation is movement around pitch, roll, and yaw axes resulting from all the aerodynamic forces. How do we enter an inverted spin? With negative G. Okay, next.
I was thinking through it in my mind. Actually, what causes that is one stall
What effect do these control inputs have on the erect spin? Pro spin, aileron.
Increases the, oscillations.
Okay, increases oscillations. Opposite aileron,
Decreases roll and yaw
okay,
oscillations.
forward stick,
Increases the rotational speed,
faster rotation rate. Aft stick,
lowers it, high pitch, lower
pro
rate.
spin rudder.
Pro spin increases, it decreases the pitch attitude but increases rate.
Very good. Higher pitch attitude with a faster rotation rate and opposite rudder.
Lower pitch attitude and slower rotation rate.
Very good. Okay, next.
Asher guys, take a look at this.
Left step. Okay. Next.
Oh, I can do another one.
Okay. How does a higher entry airspeed affect post-stall gyrations?
Increases them?
Right. Higher energy,
Yeah.
greater gyrations. So, how do we get an accelerated spin?
Accelerated spin is gonna be anywhere. I don't remember how it's full aft or not, but accelerated spin, you are
So you're in the
pushing,
right direction.
yeah, you got the stick forward neutral. if I remember correctly.
Forward of full aft.
Forward of full
Anywhere
aft.
other than full aft is an accelerated
It's
spin.
gonna increase your angular momentum.
Aggravated?
Aggravated is, still aft, but pro rudder, pro
Okay.
spin rudder.
It's a combination of both forward and pro spin.
Yeah, and progressive is opposite rudder, full aft.
Yeah, opposite rudder, full aft. You maintain the aft stick
Opposite
with
rotation.
opposite rudder and it progresses from rotating one direction to the other direction.
Reeves, you got this.
So, how is the right spin different from the left and for what reason?
The right direction, like the propeller, like pulls you like, you know, the left side of the propeller like pulls you down, like the right side of the propeller pulls you up.
Because of
P factor, or no, gyroscopic.
gyroscopic precession. Okay? So, right spin stabilizes with lower pitch attitude, left higher because of gyroscopic precession. Next.
Alright, wingtip vortices are affected by lift, creating lift, and are strongest when the aircraft is heavy, clean, and slow. Weight, speed, configuration.
So, you're right, it's the lift, but it's because of weight, speed, and configuration, it's of course heavy, clean, and slow. Taking off behind a, begins to produce wingtips vortices when you do what? If it's taking off.
And it rotates.
It rotates. Primary hazard is
Induced roll,
descend at a rate of
400 to 500 feet per minute,
total,
go down 800 to 900 feet.
right. Ground effect, wingtips do what? Wingtip vortices do what?
They reduce or you get close enough to the ground, there's not existent.
What do they actually do?
Up from the ground, they create a downwash.
They stay in the same place, they go off, what do they do? They move apart,
Yeah, okay.
they separate. Alright, who's next? Pick a victim. So where would I plan to take off or land? Behind a larger aircraft that is taking off.
In the bowl.
So that would be where relative to this aircraft?
Yeah.
So if it's taking off, you wanna be after, before the roll.
Before the rotation, okay, before he rotates, okay? Behind the larger aircraft that is landing.
After, like, he, like, puts his nose in the
Right.
air.
How should I avoid a hovering aircraft? By
Three rotor blades.
3 rotor diameters and delay how many minutes behind a heavy aircraft and how many minutes if landing behind a heavy aircraft.
2 minutes and 3.
There you go.
Well done, right?
Next. I love this, I get this every day, and I always punch that button, and nobody ever contacts me.
Wind shear is a sudden change in wind direction and speed over a short distance in the atmosphere.
Okay? Wind direction and or speed over a short distance. What causes wind shear?
It could be a lot of things. It could
Right.
be like microburst or thunderstorms or just, wake turbulence or
Okay?
anything like that. Hangers too.
Okay, so thunderstorms, microbursts, frontal passage, temperature inversions, natural or man-made obstacles. Okay, how would decreasing performance wind shear affect an aircraft?
Decrease in performance. So like when you're taking off, you could be taken off and then go into that, and then it could.
Okay, let's just try to keep it more general, other than takeoff or landing. What does it do to your airspeed?
It decreases your airspeed.
And what does it do to your lift?
Decreases your lift.
Okay? Loss of airspeed, loss of lift, descent below the normal glide path. Or on takeoff, of course, it can flatten out your spine.
All right, Mr. Peter Burke.
So you delay your rotation, speed by the wind shear factor up to 10 knots. And then, once you lift off, you set pitch for best climb.
And what kind of runway?
Oh, use the longest runway.
Okay. Longest suitable runway, increase rotation up to 10 knots at normal climb altitude. And the final thing is abort. If it says encountered prior to rotation, okay? That can happen on a runway because like there's a frontal passage, and the frontal passage is like halfway down the runway, and all of a sudden you go from a wind one direction to a wind the other direction, something like that. Okay, so that can happen. And what are the procedures for landing?
Increase your approach speed by up to 10 knots. Land with flaps, take off.
Stabilize by.
Stabilize by 1,000 feet above ground level.
And the big thing here says be aware of tendency to land long. Well, that would depend on what kind of wind shear you actually have. Maybe short or long. Who's next?
Lieutenant Bassett.
Guess what?
Great job,
Okay,